Hello everyone, my name is David, and today I'm sharing a supernatural experience with you all. So let's dive into today's story. Towards today's story. Friends, this is a true incident that happened with a boy named Abhishek during the COVID lockdown. It was a time when people were dying from the coronavirus like flies. So this story is about a boy named Abhishek. Abhishek narrating this story. I am a government employee. Due to this, I had a job in the crematorium. I had to write details about the deceased here in the crematorium. I was given a room in the crematorium and I used to do duty there all night. Friends, like every night this night too, I was sitting in my room just using my mobile because my work was done. As many people came, I had written almost everyone's details in a register, and the crematorium was right in front of my eyes where people were being cremated. Right now, my phone screen has completely gone dark, or I can say my phone seems to have turned off. I just lifted my head to look at front, which was still resting on the phone. Now, as I looked ahead, I found that all the corpses in front had burnt, and smoke was coming out from there. I couldn't understand what was happening to me, but before that, I noticed the room I was sitting in. The room's light suddenly started burning and flickering on its own. And as it happened, I immediately looked up at the light and realized that I was also terribly scared. Anyone could understand by looking at my behavior. That's when I saw that the bulb suddenly exploded and its glass fell to the ground. Seeing this, I was terribly frightened. Due to this very fear, I got up from my place and walked out of the room. As I turned my neck around, I found that there was no one present there. Those who had come to burn the bodies had also left for their homes. Now, I was the only one present in the crematorium. I was trying to switch on my mobile phone, but I wasn't getting any response from my phone. What was surprising was that my phone still had 64% battery left. The light in the room, which was flickering before, was now completely off. Then I saw smoke filling the crematorium. Not only was the entire light of the crematorium off, making nothing visible, but also the sudden appearance of smoke was terrifying me a lot. So far, where there was silence, now slowly creepy voices were also starting to come. I was trying to listen to this voice. It felt like someone was hiding inside the smoke and calling me by my name. When this voice reached my ears, my fear increased significantly. I was about to move towards that room when suddenly I saw that the smoke that had just spread was showing my face in those fumes. And after seeing it, my hands and feet were frozen in fear. Without thinking, I turned back and started walking towards the same room. I couldn't see anything clearly, but as much as I could see because of the moonlight, it was visible. Friends, now, after seeing all these things, I was quite scared, and this fear had increased so much that I couldn't even stand on both my feet. I searched for the chair there and sat on it. As I sat, I was pondering on what was happening around me. Suddenly, I felt as if someone was present in the room. Due to the darkness, I couldn't see, but I had a feeling as if someone was lurking in the room. In a trembling voice, I shouted, "Who's there?" My voice echoed in the empty room. I tried to take out my phone from my pocket and turn it on, but despite my efforts, it wouldn't turn on. I wondered what had happened to my phone at that moment. If my phone had turned on, I would have at least turned on the flashlight to reduce my fear a bit. After a few attempts, when my phone didn't turn on, I put it back in my pocket. Suddenly, I felt as if the door of the room had closed on its own, and the sound of the door closing echoed in my ears. Hearing that, I became even more nervous. As a result, I rushed to the door, trying to open it. But despite my best efforts, the door still refused to open. Now, the room was even dimmer than before. A window was open, allowing moonlight to filter into the room, but nothing could be clearly seen inside. I shouted loudly, but my cries went unanswered. As I turned back, I noticed a dark shadow standing right in front of me. My heart started pounding, and I felt chills run down my spine. What surprised me was that the shadow was slowly inching towards me. Terrified, I shut my eyes tight because within seconds, the shadow was about to stand right in front of me, sending shivers down my spine. I didn't know what it was going to do to me, but the fear was so intense that I felt like I could have a heart attack. Then, for a few minutes, I had kept my eyes closed, but despite that, I wasn't feeling anything. Then when I realized I wasn't feeling anything, I opened my eyes to see, but I couldn't see anyone anywhere. But the surprising thing was that as soon as I opened my eyes, someone slapped me hard on the head. And as this slap landed on my head, I lifted my head up to see. Then I found that the dark shadow was now upside down on the wall. Just like a lizard sticks to the wall, that shadow was stuck to the wall, and it was continuously hitting me on the head. Seeing it doing that, I was terribly scared, and in fear I started trying to open the door again. But the door of that room was not even ready to open, and seeing all these things and to avoid that shadow, I had now walked towards the open window. Now I stood by the window facing it, yelling loudly, "If someone is outside, they will come to save me." But there was no point in doing so, because only dense darkness spread far and wide as far as the eye could see. I was doing all this when suddenly I felt as if someone had placed their hand on my shoulder. Consequently, trembling with fear, I slowly turned my neck back, only to find two red eyes staring at me. Nothing else was visible to me except for these two red eyes. And because of this, I was terribly frightened, and a loud scream escaped from my mouth. Friends, seeing these dreadful two red eyes made my heart beat loudly, and I stood there trembling in fear. Now I had absolutely no strength left in my legs to stand on both my feet. Consequently, I fell right there, and those terrifying red eyes were still staring at me. Seeing them made my condition even worse. That's when it felt as if someone had grabbed my foot with their hand, and I could now understand even more that before someone had grabbed my feet and pulled me in the opposite direction. As a result, my head hit a wall, and I got injured. Friends, when my eyes opened afterward, I found those two red eyes still staring at me. Looking at those two eyes, I felt even more frightened than before. I barely comprehended that someone had grabbed my foot again. I was still trying to free my foot when someone grabbed it again and threw me in the opposite direction once more. I bumped into a wall again, but the good thing was that I didn't hit my head on the wall this time. As I had just put my hand on my head and went forward, my hand hit a wall, which resulted in a lesser injury for me. But now, seeing all these things happening around me, I was thoroughly scared. I understood that maybe today I won't be able to make it back home safely. I had been working here for quite a long time, but nothing like this had ever happened to me before. Because of this, I couldn't understand what to do. I was still contemplating all these things when suddenly I felt like someone was trying to grab my collar and pull me upright. I was so badly injured that I couldn't even stand on my feet. He wanted to pull me up by holding my collar, but I couldn't stand up, and I couldn't see anyone, which made me even more scared. Then suddenly, a bright light flashed, and along with this light, my hope also awakened. Then I found that the light was on in that room, and seeing this light made me so happy that I couldn't express it in words. It felt as if I had been given a second life. As the light came on in the room, no one was visible there, and even the red eyes that were there before were now gone. Now the room seemed completely normal, but when my gaze fell on my hands, I was terribly shocked, because I found that both my hands were soaked in blood. Both my hands were filled with blood up to the wrists, which completely terrified me. How did my hands get soaked in blood on their own? I took out the water bottle from my bag and tried to wash my hands, but surprisingly, despite my efforts, my hands were not getting rid of the blood. I was continuously pouring water over my hands, but the blood wasn't coming off. I couldn't make sense of anything I saw. Then I took out a handkerchief from my bag and tried to clean the blood with it, but it was of no use because the blood wasn't coming off my hands. I became quite scared looking at it. I silently stood up from my place and started moving towards the door. I was trying to open the door, but despite my efforts, it still wouldn't open. It felt like someone had locked that door from the outside. I was still trying to open the door when I heard someone crying from behind. When I turned my neck back in fear to look, I found that there was no one behind, but the crying voice was still audible. Then my gaze went towards the window, and I realized that someone was crying near the window. Upon hearing that voice, I was quite terrified, and as a result, I absolutely couldn't bring myself to go and look near that window to see who was crying. But I had no other way out. I started to slowly move towards the window. After taking a few steps, I finally reached near the window, so I found that there was a cat near that window. The cat was entirely black in color. The cat had its mouth towards my window and was crying. This thing seemed quite eerie to me because I had never seen a cat in this crematorium before, and now suddenly I saw a crying cat too. This thing was scaring me a lot, that something really bad was going to happen to me. I tried to scare away the cat with my voice, but despite that, the cat didn't move from there. It kept crying continuously, and the cry of a cat is ominous. Due to this, I tried to chase away the crying black cat from my window by any means possible. As a result, I picked up a stick in that room and started attacking the cat from the window so that it would run away out of fear. But friends, to tell the truth, it wasn't a cat but a demon. As soon as I attacked the cat with the stick, its paw turned into a human hand and it grabbed my stick with its hand. It started pulling me outside. Seeing it do that, my leg slipped under me and the stick slipped from my hand out of fear. Now that cat, which was crying near the window outside the room, suddenly jumped inside the room. Seeing it coming inside the room, I quickly stepped back. I had no other way. I was trying to stop it from coming into my room, but despite that, I couldn't stop it, and it jumped straight into the room from the window. Each step it took towards me was increasing my fear, and seeing it approaching me, I was terribly scared. My hair stood on end out of fear, and I was searching around for something to scare the cat away, but then my eyes fell on a chair nearby. So I decided to pick up that chair and throw it straight at the cat. As I crept closer to the chair, I suddenly lifted it and hurled it onto the cat, but then I noticed that the cat had suddenly vanished. The room was completely silent now. I turned my head around the corners of the room, but I couldn't see the cat anywhere. That's when I thought the danger had passed, but in reality, the real trouble was just beginning from there. Slowly, I started moving back towards the window where I had seen the cat. As I approached the window and tried to look outside, I made every effort, but I couldn't spot any cat out there. Now, looking at this thing, my life flashed before my eyes. I hadn't even taken a peaceful breath yet when I suddenly realized that the door, which was closed before, is now open. I heard the sound of the door opening from behind, and as soon as I turned my neck towards that door, I found that the door was now open. And seeing it open, I felt much happier from the inside, but when my gaze went to the corner of the door, I found that a black cat was now sitting near that door staring at me. Seeing that cat staring at me, I became completely scared again. I could barely understand anything yet, but before that, the cat brought its steps inside my room. And as soon as the cat came into my room, the door closed on its own again. The cat was now advancing towards me, and it was clear from looking at it that it was very angry. The way I attacked it with the chair, it didn't like that. Now the cat was steadily advancing towards me, and I was stepping back with each step. Then I saw that the cat had climbed onto the table there, and the table on which the cat had climbed was quite far from me. But then that cat leaped straight at me. I tried to grab the cat with both hands and attempted to throw it away from me, but I couldn't. However, something astonishing was troubling me even more. The blood that was on my hands, which I couldn't wash off even with water, was starting to land on the cat's body, and my hand was gradually becoming clean. The cat was trying to attack me with its claws, but it couldn't because I had kept it quite far from myself. When, even after trying for some time, the cat couldn't attack me, it started to scream loudly. From its voice, it was clear to me that it was very angry, and it was determined to attack me by any means. Then I grabbed the cat with both my hands and threw it towards a corner. As a result, the cat went and collided with a wall and fell down there. After that, I saw that the cat was changing its form. It was transforming into the form of a human body. Its body was completely black. Seeing it transform, my eyes widened in fear, and my fear multiplied several times. It was approaching towards me. I didn't know what was going to happen to me now, but it was clear that it was coming towards me to attack me. Then I saw that behind it, many people who looked like it were also coming and standing. That is, the black shadows behind it were continuously increasing. Then, I saw that it looked towards the sky and gestured with its hands, after which many souls stood behind it continuously. Friends, seeing this scene, my eyes were now wide open in fear, and I couldn't understand anything, what to do now and what not to. Those souls were continuously coming towards me. Then I saw as if someone had grabbed both my hands. I was trying to free my hand from that dark shadow, but despite my efforts, my hand wasn't moving. Then I saw someone had started taking off my clothes. Although I didn't want this to happen, but there was no point in saying anything. Within moments, my clothes were removed, and after a while, I was completely naked. I was trying to stop them with my feet, but that didn't help either. But I didn't even know what was going to happen to me now. Then someone hit me on the head and I passed out right there. After some time when I woke up, I found myself in the hospital, and when I looked around by turning my neck, there was that same man sitting next to me whose job was in the crematorium in the morning. Then he told me everything, that when he came to work in the morning, he found me completely naked. I was unconscious there and he wrapped me in a blanket. He asked for help from some people there and brought me to the hospital. That's when he told me that I was unconscious there. There wasn't even a piece of cloth on my body, but I was lucky to survive. Otherwise, those devils would have killed me. When I regained consciousness, I informed the worker who was on duty there about all the incidents that happened with me. And upon hearing me, that worker also stopped coming to work in that crematorium. So friends, that's all in this story. If you liked the story, please like, share, and comment on the video.